All right, well, I'll go ahead and call the Finance Committee meeting to order. Introduce the board and guests. Katie Kemp, board.
Board first, or Georgie McNamara, staff.
Jake Jacobs, retired. I wasn't thinking about that.
Study role of board.
Tom Holcomb, staff.
Robin Myers, staff.
Dan Hoyt, staff.
And Brian.
Roger Montero, staff.
All right, we'll go to video. Amanda George. George McNamara. Jillian Reefer. Georgie McNamara.
Mitchell.
George Mitchell. And is that Tom down in the corner?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
George Mitchell, board.
All right. Thank you, George.
Roger Montero, staff.
Hello, Roger. Okay, so presentation of the July 22 financial statements, Tom.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for your interest in the ETOS financials. These are the July numbers.
Highlighted my month.
We may need to talk about the rest of your month. This is our balance sheet for July, compares what we owned as of July 31st to what we owned July 31st of previous years. So you can see that that our cash position this year is stronger than it was a year ago, stronger than it was 2 years ago, and within a couple of $100,000 of where it was 3 years ago, which was pre-COVID. So we've got $9.98 million in the bank at this time. We have $5 million that we've accrued on 2022 taxes, which is what will be collected with this year's levy, which you'll be voting on next month. $882,000 is accounts receivable from Medicaid, both from support coordination and from transportation. These other asset numbers that are smaller. We have $9.5 million, the book value of our fixed assets at July 31st. And due to depreciation, that number is $500,000 less than last year, which was $700,000 less than the year before, and so on. So our depreciation has outpaced our reinvestment in fixed assets for the last several years. On the liability side of the balance sheet, there's not a whole lot of news here. Our mortgage is currently just under $1.3 million. That matures in 2027 and is a great deal at 3% interest. At the end of the Finance Committee meeting, I'm going to suggest to you that we might want to make an investment that would actually make more than 3% interest. We would actually be making money off our money. Our equity position, $23.7 million, again, is in a stronger position than last year. This is our capital budget since since the last time we met, which was 2 months ago, there's been a few changes here. The $91,000 here on new vehicles is the deposit that we put down on the 5310 deal. You're going to hear more about that later tonight. Lots of things are changing there, so we'll have lots to talk about on that. Also, since the last time we met, we spent $10,000 to replace some glass at Job 1 Independence. We spent another $4,000 to replace some glass across the street. And we spent about $20,000 during that 2-month period on computers that are in the furniture and equipment section. We've still got lots of room left in our capital budget. So the income statement, this is for the 7 months ended July 31st, compared to the same 7 months of the previous year. And you can see our total revenues are up $500,000 year over year. 400,000 of that is in property taxes. And the other $100,000 is down here on this line that says other revenue. And that represents the refund that we got from Blue Cross for having great claims experience during the insurance year that actually ended November 30th of 2021. We just got that money in June. So yeah, so that's fantastic. Under the ACA, Blue Cross is only allowed to make a certain amount of profit off of us. And when we're really healthy and they make more than that, they're required to give us. The last couple of years, we haven't had that situation, so it's a nice surprise this year. Our expenses are remarkably similar to last year, within just over $3,000 on $10 million in expenses. So, you know, there are places where we're up and places where we're down. We've spent more in vocational, a little less in residential, a little less in day services, a little more in intervention, and so on down the line. They net out to virtually the same number. So with more revenue and the same amount of expenses, our bottom line is much better than last year. Still a loss, but much better than where we were last year. And I showed you on the balance sheet earlier that we have 23 million and some in fund balance, so we can absorb a $52,000 loss without it being a significant issue. Comparative budget, Robin, I'm wondering if there's a way for you to get that out of the way for me. Yeah, that. Just drag it down, I think. Thank you. I think if you just move your cursor so that it's not down there, it'll. All right, good enough. So this shows you that during July, our revenues were under what we budgeted, $72,000. That's all in support coordination. You'll also see that our expenses are under budget, $150,000. 87,000 was in support coordination. And most of the other variance numbers are relatively small. For the year, we are
board meeting
215,000 under budget on the revenue, which is only 2%. So we're real close to the revenue budget, and we are 8.1% under budget on the expense side, and we're under pretty much all up and down. So we've actually got a $439,000 net income before depreciation. After you subtract depreciation,
I'm listening, yeah.
$2,000 loss, which is still $39,000 better than that.
What,
usually the most useful thing on this is to compare expenses, 2022 to 2021, so 7 months to 7 months, and see where the significant fluctuations are. I think you'll find the biggest fluctuation here is on the employee benefits line. Almost $300,000 decrease in benefits, and that's from the better health insurance premiums that we got. Much of that's negotiation that Jake did, and Blue Cross's willingness to enter into better premium deals due to our better claims experience. Most of the other numbers along here are similar year over year. I think the other big fluctuation is on the vehicles line. You can see we're up about $150,000 on vehicles, and that's virtually all gas. Some of it's maintenance. And then the last financial statement that I've got is our investment that we currently have. We have a treasury note. I'll hold on a second. So we do have one $500,000 treasury note. The coupon rate is 2.75%. That means the rate that's stamped on the bond is 2.75%. We bought it when it was yielding 2.17%. Since the market rate is something over 3%, the market value of that note is actually down about $4,000 since we bought it. We don't really care about that because we're in a position to hold it till it matures, at which time it will be worth exactly $500,000. I think that's most of what I have to say about the financial statements. Are there questions or comments about that?
I don't have any. Move on to new business.
Under new business, I would like to suggest that we purchase another $500,000 treasury note. We currently have, as you know, $1.85 million in operating reserves and another $300,000 in reserve for providers. So that's a total of over $2 million. We have $500,000 of it in that one treasury note. The rest of it is in a money market account that's earning 0.15%. So it's great that it's liquid and it's there for us to use and get easily when we want. But because we don't plan to use that operating reserve, it's part of what reserve means. We hope to not need it for a while. I think we could easily put another $500,000 in for about a year, and we can get, well, the last time I looked, we could get about 3.1% on that. Our investment policy delegates the decisions over investments to the executive director, and she's okayed this, but we certainly wanted to discuss it with the finance committee. You can certainly stop us if you don't want us to do it. But I'm recommending it, and I think it's a prudent and sensible thing. And we'll still have a lot of money in that money market account available to use if we need to spend it, or to invest in something, again, if 2 or 3 months go by and interest rates have increased again.
Is there any reason keeping us from doing more into a higher yield?
No, the question would be how much more, right? So the $300,000 that you've got reserved for providers, you probably don't want to put in a time-bound kind of investment. But as far as I'm concerned, the other really 1.35 million, you can do what you want. And the truth is, if we, God help us, if we actually needed that money, we can sell the treasury bond.
I was going to say, are you allowed to get out of those early?
Certainly you are. Your only limitation is that if market interest rates go up, the value of your bonds go down. Yeah. That's one of the very few predictable things about how investments work. And so if market interest rates go up, you might not get the full $500,000 if you had to sell it. But interest rates might just as well go down, and then those investments will be worth more. So, like I said, my sort of approach to this is very slow and careful, and thinking, well, let's keep back a bunch of that money in case in another 3 months interest rates are 6%, and we'd rather buy a bond that's throwing off 6% interest. But I'll certainly listen to your advice on that.
Because we're all financially literate.
Any concerns? Any concerns from those on Zoom?
So I guess the only question we would have would be if it's within policy that the executive director can invest up to $500,000. What action do you need from the board except for letting us know that that's what's going to happen?
My understanding is that no action is actually needed by the board. That years ago, when the board adopted the investment policy, it delegated that responsibility to the executive director. Now, if smarter people know something different, then I'm willing to listen, but I just read the investment policy about 7 minutes ago. little bit more than that.
Again, I defer to Tom. Hearing no objection, I think that the board would agree with that, and then ask Georgia to move forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other new business? Any old business? We got 10 minutes. Any public comment? All right, then we will adjourn the finance committee for approximately 10 minutes, and we will then start the regular board meeting.
So right now, what's on the site is, and I realized that just before the meeting. Yes. In fact, I'll email that to Dan right now and ask him.
Caroline.
One spent, and mine was the same way, so it's probably on mine, it's probably definitely on mine, but that's why I just updated for when you get it. No, yeah,
Yeah, well, really, I work presentation of auditors and I named her final work presentation of auditors.
Yeah.
anyway, it's great.
So we're just gonna use three.
Would appreciate it. Instead of the other one, not alongside the other.
Yes. And then. We're gonna use that.
You didn't do
She's changing. I she's decided to stay there part-time. So she's back to school. My son is doing currently for still letting them staff. Been an adjustment. And when she won March 8th or something. The mom said, yeah. Yeah. They went to Florida. She even done a plane ride. She's just changed. Honestly, good for her. Getting out with other kids. She's the only baby. She'll be so that'll be good. Yeah, but you know, it's just mom and dad. They couldn't have gone.
You mean the application? The application is already in.
Yeah. Right. I love that.
So anyway,
Right. The granddaughter just preschool. Yeah. For kids to do something about it. So. Okay. Just might realize it's really the same issue. That has been in fifth grade about middle school, fifth grade, grade school, with different. They go to Frenchman. Oh, they do. Very little. So it's funny.
Hand me that now.
Pretty hard in school. Gets me down. Not going. I'm really not. We're in Colorado.
Taking my money real well. You keep calling me, I guess.
Your friend and it was kind of amazing. It is pretty amazing. And my granddaughter who's in seventh grade, when they get to school, they have
That's operational.
she's
Takes the thing on your feet.
compliant COVID protocols.
Mine's not so much.
We've just got.
So that I have a real opportunity.
That's a nice view. About throwing crap in. Be able to do it.
More interesting.
So when we find some, I'll do it. Some people screwed up.
But man,
But it needs to be too much.
really, well, because I was saying people like there was that I didn't like anybody else. I COVID or flu shot. And then I'm just trying to and then master and the health department not bad and then the budget was but no,
Get started. I think we've got a lot on tonight's agenda. I think we've had a few people join us since we have our previous introductions. So I know, gentlemen.
Bill Bank.
JD Bank.
Okay. And anyone else that we have in the gallery that has joined us since the beginning of the finance meeting? See Kenneth Bird. I think John Humphrey wasn't here for introductions. All right. That covers everybody. If not, speak up so that Robin can get you on the list. And we will go to the secretary's report.
Sorry. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes that Robin sent?
I did not see any.
Then if not, I move that we approve them as presented.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, this motion is carried. Finance Committee, can you give us a brief overview, Tom?
We're doing great.
Through 7 months, we have a net loss of about $52,000, which we can easily absorb. Our balance sheet shows about $23 million in equity. We have one treasury note of $500,000, and it was reported that we will probably be buying another one.
All right, short and sweet. Very good. Those are unaudited reports, so we do not need a motion on those. The executive director's report was sent to us.
Yes, I sent that out to you guys on email. If you all had a chance to read it, did you have any questions or anything you'd like to discuss further?
Any things that I didn't get here? I refresh my memory. Yeah.
I haven't been doing that.
The 90-day plan is looking like 30 days.
I think so.
Yeah, I didn't have any questions.
I just say good job.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think you're falling right into place.
Thank you.
So, special legislative session, any updates on that?
Yeah, it's been scheduled for September 6th, I think it is. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone knows better, but I think that's right. I think it's September 6th. So.
And we still don't know how it might affect EMH funding.
We do not. Hopefully not. There.
Fingers crossed.
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to new business. We have the 2022 conflict resolution.
It's actually a conflict of interest resolution. And this is a resolution that you guys agree to, that you will disclose any conflicts of interest and that you will act with integrity, that sort of thing. It has to be passed before September 15th every other year, so on even numbered years, so that we can send this to the Missouri Ethics Commission. Otherwise, every one of you would have to file very lengthy reports with the Missouri Ethics Commission. I think you might still have to, but it would just be a short one. Is that correct, Jake? Tell me if I'm wrong. Yeah, okay. So if you guys pass this resolution, then we would need the president and the secretary to sign it, and then we can send it off. And had you, we sent it out. Have you guys all had a chance to read that? Great.
There was no change.
No, it was exactly the same.
Yeah.
Except the dates.
So it's a resolution of the Developmental Disability Services of Jackson County, ETOS, to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interests for board officials. I'm not going to read through the whole thing. We each do our conflict of interest statements at the beginning of the year. I think we have those all on file up to date.
I make a motion we approve the conflict of interest resolution as presented.
Second. All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. This motion is carried, and Susan and I will sign.
Thank you.
Go to the Blue Valley contract amendment. Georgie and Roger's over there. Good.
Yeah, we had set aside that fund of money so that if things didn't go according to plan, that we would have some providers that the ability to get a little bit more of that funding out of there. And Brian had sent a letter. I believe we included that in your packet. But Brian, did you want to tell them anything?
Well, it's basically what laid out. You know, we're using about 1,000 units a month at that time. Right, and so when Tom had called me mid-March and I realized that there needed to be some adjustments, and he said, oh, by the way, it's gonna run out sometime around mid-September. Well, we've watched it and it really looks like mid-October, and so I've asked for 2,305 units, and that should take us through the end of the year. And so I just sort of asked for that to be added to our funding for this year, for actual services that will be provided. And I'm willing to answer any questions that you have that weren't covered in the letter.
Do we recall what that totaled out to?
Dollars? Yeah. For the request? Yes. It's 82,519. So that's 2 months and like 2 weeks.
Any discussion by the board? Feel like this is exactly what we made this fund for. And for services provided. So I have no concerns with it.
So, if I may, what we're looking from the board is a resolution to amend the budget to authorize the spending of an additional
$82,519.
for Blue Valley's contract.
It's just taking a motion from the board, right? Okay, I move that we authorize the amendment to Blue Valley Industries for the total amount of $82,519.
Okay, I just have a point. I'll second it and then go.
Okay.
So I'm counting heads. I think I have to abstain. So I don't know if our quorum causes a problem. Or John. Oh, Jillian's on there, right?
Yep.
With Jillian.
Jillian.
Yeah, with Jillian.
No. Oh, no.
She wants something.
Yeah.
Oh.
But with one abstaining, does that?
Jillian was made with it. I don't know because if the quorum is a majority present or if it's a majority of the 9.
Right.
I would take
Present.
It's the majority present.
Okay, so if that's the case, then that's not.
Yeah,
right. I think that would make sense that it had to be majority present for us to conduct business, and then she has to, if anyone has abstained, wouldn't vote.
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, good. It was all.
Okay.
Any concerns, Mr. Humphrey?
Nope.
He said no.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, this
And then
motion is
Martin
carried.
is abstaining for the records.
This motion is carried. I meant to mention under the executive director's report that Tom and Georgie and I discussed last week a proposal from the Moran Company, our search agent. They offered Georgie an opportunity to participate in their mentorship
mentorship program for new executive directors. And it's a nationwide, anybody they've placed is eligible to attend.
And I did go ahead and approve, they give her a 50% discount for that. I did go ahead and approve the $1,200 for that. We had.
And it fits within our existing budget.
Yeah, we talked to Tom, and had agreed on education funds. And I think it certainly fits into that realm. So just wanted to let you guys know that.
Mentioned that, I forgot.
And the annual banquet, we're back to an annual banquet.
We would really like to have a celebration next year, an in-person celebration. I know in the past, those have been very, very expensive. I just wanted to get the feel of this board. Are you looking for something very formal as a banquet? Are you looking for something maybe that would be more informal, like a picnic? But I think we could swing the banquet in next year's budget if we actually do have more money to use for next year's budget.
It should be really special.
Yeah, I think additionally, it has been great for morale for our people that we serve and providers. And
Profession night.
yeah, yeah.
I don't think you
Kind of like a problem for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's
John.
yeah.
John is wanting
I
to.
don't think you can do an outdoor picnic with as many wheelchair bound folks as we serve that like to attend. I mean, unless you do it on a parking lot.
Yeah,
But that's no fun.
yeah, and then you have to worry about
Flat.
rain and
Right.
weather and all that.
Where I came from, we always did them as picnics, but there was a very large accessible area, and we were only talking about 500 people.
We've had snow on our on our banquet in the past.
Okay, so with that, then we will try to do something very nice for people. And I believe in the past, Jake, what was that about? Or Tom, maybe around 50,000 is what?
25 to 30.
25 to 30? Okay, thank you.
Depends on the venue.
Yes, depends a lot on the venue.
Ah, okay.
So we'll look at that as we are looking at the budget, with hopes of doing something again back to a nice presentation for people. All right, and we have on the 16th staff appreciation.
Yes.
Okay, and that's here.
Right at the 8508.
Across the street.
And drive-through or
Drive-through is for the staff. Some of them are choosing to drive by because they don't have time to come in or choose not to get close contact. But we're going to have food and fun and games and visiting, and hopefully you all will be able to actually come in and chit chat with everybody.
okay, 11:30.
I think so.
Okay.
I think that's what I said.
I think that's what.
We've got the
81 and I think so.
Okay. Very good. So September 16th. Now on to old business, the 5310 vehicles. Amanda. Glad to see your smiling face.
Hello, everybody.
You'll have to speak up a little bit.
Okay, I can do that. I will project through my computer. Is that better? Can you hear me?
Yeah, but barely. So yell
I
at
can
me.
hear you fine.
Oh, there.
Yeah, I think it. Okay.
Great.
I'm hoping you can hear me. Sorry for everyone else who I'm yelling at on the Zoom link here.
If you want to temporarily mute the meeting room audio, it helps a great deal.
So did you hear that? Mute the meeting room audio. Okay, fantastic. We heard last week about a problem with our 5310 transit van order. We were notified last Wednesday and then had a chance to talk with KCATA, the procurement people, to get more information. So we were supposed to receive 10 transit buses through our 5310 grant. And for the low price of $120,000, we could still get those 10 transit vans and then have no guarantee of when we would receive them. Most likely next year sometime, perhaps longer. And then again, there wasn't a real solid guarantee that the price wouldn't go up again. So we explored what was possible through KCATA and met with our amazing team, which Roger, Joe, Georgie, Tom, and then the rest of the DOT team, Kenneth and Angie, to figure out what are we going to do about this. So I'm going to let Joe tell you about our significant need for buses or transits now. And then Roger is going to share the plan options for that we want to present to the board. So I turn it over to Joe, who is in the room with you.
You're always going to unmute so everybody can hear you.
Like Amanda said, the 5310, the price went up on the transits by $12,000 a piece. They're expected to go up again, another $12,000 here pretty quick. And again, after the first of the year, and they're getting out of rate. So we kind of had three options: was either A, cut back the order, which would have put us at only getting 5 vehicles. B, pardon?
5 vehicles, who knows when.
Yeah. B was to cancel the order. C is to pay the other $130,000, the price increase. So I questioned the ATA on if we could go out and do our own procurement and use the 5310 money to pay for vehicles. We got an email back Friday morning saying we could do that, but we had to do some paperwork through the ATA, and then we'd also have to have the board sign off on purchase. So I got busy. I spent all Friday, Saturday, Sunday chasing down buses, vehicles, and we came up with some pretty good solutions that are available to us. Let's see, 5 of them would be available within the next 3 or 4 days. The other 5 would be available to us in 4 weeks. So they, and correct me if I'm wrong, Roger, I don't know if he's still on or not, but the one purchase we can't use the 5310 money for because we have the 53 grant money set aside for that vendor. So we had to use it to go to a different vendor, which panned out because that works. We can get 5 buses from them, which would be, I think Amanda was going to put this up, but I'll show you a quick picture. It would be a 12 and 2 bus.
And I think we were wanting a status report on our current buses.
Yeah. Currently, MoDOT now has a regulation in which we, they have an age and a mileage bracket at which they are considered to be past their useful life. And then we have the next category of it is, at this point, they should be disposed of. And we have quite a few that we need to dispose of. We're looking to do 10 right now and hopefully do a bigger version next year. The situation we're in right now is parts for them are holding us up really long. Major components, engines, transmissions, you know, and I mean, we're hitting the age on them where they're going down. So that was the purpose of us needing to shop for our new vehicles. We've got a couple of them that we've pulled out and literally parked because they are unsafe to operate based upon entry steps corroded away. So if somebody were to step on them, fall through them, floor cross beams are broken from the aluminum being eroded away. And literally to rebuild those buses, we would spend $120,000, $130,000 because we'd have to take completely apart, start from the frame up. So that's where we are now. Like I said, we have found some options. I'll let Roger and Amanda go through those options and what we need to do to actually possess them.
Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? Great. So, as Joe was stating, our fleet is in decline, and we're having issues finding parts, and most of our vehicles, or a lot of them, are 14 years or older, pushing 300,000 miles. So by MoDOT standards, they need to be replaced. What we're proposing is the acquisition of 10 new vehicles, 8 minibuses, and 2 transits. The minibuses are 12 and 2s, which means they'll handle up to 12 passengers and 2 tie down with 2 tie down positions at the same time, or a combination thereof. And the transits, I think Amanda's got the 12 and 2 up. The transits are through Mobility Works. They're a 4-passenger, 2 tie down position, or an 8 ambulatory passenger, or a combination thereof. You can adjust that any way you need to. We currently have 2 of the minibuses available to us at $89,900. We have one that'll be available to us in September if we decide to take it for $99,300. And the two transits are sitting at $95,000 a piece right now. Now, a lot of these vehicles, if you were to go out in the market and look at them right now, they're over $100,000, over $105,000, $110,000. We're looking at a total cost for acquiring these 5 vehicles of $469,070. What our thought was, or the proposal was, to go out and purchase and grab these vehicles while we can at this price, and then use the 5310 award that we have, which is sitting at $468,541.60, to go through the KCA procurement process, or their department, and use what's called a sole source designation purchase. What that means is that we're justified in asking them to go out and purchase these vehicles on our behalf from another vendor, not Masters. And I'll get into that here in just a second. And purchase these vehicles on our behalf. There is a process that needs to take place, some paperwork, and I'm working with KCATA to get that documentation to us so that we can expedite that. I spoke to 2 representatives today, again, just this afternoon, from KCATA, and they can get those contracts out and corrected and processed for us rather quickly. We just have to make sure that the vehicles are still available at a competitive price, which right now we're looking at, if we were to acquire those new vehicles, they're at just over $111,000 a piece. But we would acquire 5 of them using the 5310 award money. We would still have to come up with a difference on our side to compensate for that. There's going to be a slight difference there, probably close to $100,000. But that figure, or that price per vehicle, isn't set in stone yet. So there's still variance there. Again, this would not be a competitive bid that we would acquire these vehicles through KCATA. It's actually called a sole source. And our justification for it is, one, our vehicles have outlived their useful life, and they are now recommended by MoDOT to be taken off the road because of their age. Some of them are pushing 14 years and even more. The new vehicles will give us the flexibility that we need. They're minibuses, but they are a 12 and 2 passenger type vehicle that'll give us the flexibility we can use those on our flex routes. We can use them on our full-size routes. In addition, the transits will help us out in the rural areas because they're smaller V6 engine. We can use it. We can use that vehicle again for fixed routes. We can also use it for advanced call, and more than likely we'll use them for our flex schedule. My understanding is we can purchase these vehicles. We can have them possibly in service by mid-September, possibly sooner. But the issue right now with KCATA is that since they had piggybacked their contract off of the MoDOT contract, they are not allowed to negotiate directly with Masters and use, or 53 funding. 53 funding cannot be used to purchase vehicles for Masters at this current point in time. So I don't know what other vendors they're going to go look for or search out for the vehicles that are in need right now. However, we can, since we're not using 5310 funds, we can go out and purchase these 5 vehicles at a discounted price, get them into our fleet, again, possibly by the first or second week of September, and then work towards getting the reward money that we have sitting there to get the new buses purchased from a an outfit in Indiana called Creative Bus Incorporated. We can use that 53 fund or the award fund to purchase the 5 remaining 12 and 2 minibuses that we want to get.
Okay, thank you, Roger.
And the buses that we're going to get, they're already equipped. The chairs, the ramps, lifts, everything's in and operational, and they're brand new.
They're brand new. The only thing we'll need to do to them, John, is add our video and audio equipment. There's going to be some other additional safety decals, highlight strips, maybe some bars for poisoning. I'm trying to think of, Joe, you might be able to give us some insight on that. There's a couple other things I know I'm missing.
Yeah, we would have to add the sneeze guards behind the driver.
There you go. Yeah. But for the most part, John, they're ready to go. We'll just need to make a few additions to them and to get them ready.
What about our branding and logos? Do we have a stock of those we just put on the wraps or whatever?
I think we can order those pretty quickly. Joe, do you have an idea?
I have them in stock.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, let's talk numbers, Tom.
So what we would be looking to the board for would be a resolution to amend the budget to authorize an additional $469,070. Maybe we should round that up, because who knows what's going to happen over the next couple of days. But something in the neighborhood of $500,000 that would to enable us to purchase 5 buses that we believe are immediately or nearly immediately available.
And critically needed.
Yeah. Desperately, right.
And hopefully $500,000 to get 5 buses.
And you may wonder, there is a price difference between 3 of them and 5 of them. The reason being, the 3 of them I'm able to save us some money on because they were ordered for someone, built, and then just last week said, I don't want them delivered until late 2023. So now they're willing to cut us the deal on them to get them out of their inventory. And the other 5 that we would be using the 5310 money for, we would be buying straight from the manufacturer, Creative Bus. And just to give you an idea of the price increase, the 2022s that we would be getting at $90,000 a piece. Well, now you're looking at $111,000 a piece.
It is, my math suggests that the 5310 money plus the $91,000 deposit we've already paid will be sufficient to pay for those other 5 that we've been talking about getting from Creative Bus. So all we're asking for is the right to spend another $500,000 to get.
The only additional cost could occur on the Creative Bus side of it would be a delivery fee, or we have the option to go pick them up.
So the delivery fee is at that point a couple $100 for each bus, or
probably closer to $1,000, $1,500
for all buses, or
for each bus.
Cool.
Where are they to be picked up?
They're in Goshen, Indiana.
John, you volunteer?
Hi. But I can drive really fast.
I've done it several times.
When's John be done with bus? That's the question.
The other thing with going with the 12 and 2s is it does eliminate a lot of our DOT issues.
I think at this point, we've been waiting a long time for new buses. The safety is certainly our primary concern. We have it in the budget.
And they're not getting any cheaper. Right. And they're like, the longer we wait, it's just gonna get more.
About the other side of it.
I think from a liability standpoint, we can't afford not to.
I agree. Definitely. Good. I would agree, John.
There was one other point I wanted to make. We had completed, or I completed here recently our last application for 5310 funding. I'd asked for 10 or put in a request for 10 new E450 vehicles or E450 buses, which is currently what we have now in service. Sounds like they're not going to be available. In fact, they may not be available for 2 or 3 years down the road. So, and unfortunately, the price chart that I'm getting from KCATA is listing them at 89,000 a piece. Well, realistically, they're more around 120 or 125. And so, what I'm getting at is we're probably going to go through this process again, not in this dire situation that we're in now, but we're going to have to reconfigure the award money that we get for next year. I highly suspect that those E450s aren't going to be available, and we're going to have to change our order. And I'm thinking at that point we could probably either do the same thing, sole source, see if we could still qualify for that and go out and acquire those vehicles on our own, or hopefully the order will get in time and we'll be able to acquire the new transits. I suspect that's what's going to be available to us.
Will this get us to where we need to be right now?
Not completely.
Not completely, but it will get us to a much better point than we are at the moment.
Right. We'll be way better off than where we are now. It's going to definitely help quite a bit.
And I suspect we might be talking about purchasing some vehicles outside of the 5310 grant in next year's budget. It's something we might need to look at, but we're not there yet. We don't have enough details to know that yet.
Not yet in this position again.
To not get in this position again where we're waiting and waiting for 5310.
Because he has this grant, but it's not doing us any good.
Well, part of the reason it doesn't do anybody any good for that grant money at the moment is, like, if you look at Ford, their gasoline transit line, their order bank is only open for 30 days because they're concentrating on their electric vehicle line, which has been open now for like 8 months. Well, they gave us from October 1st till September 2nd on gasolines, but yet they don't have the parts to complete them. And MoDOT, from the MoDOT side of it, the ones that MoDOT ordered, they actually refused the vans because Ford didn't have the power seat component, they didn't have a power mirror component, so they put manual stuff on them and they were rejected.
I would say that in places where I've worked before, we always got 5310 grants, and we did not rely solely on that. We always budgeted money to replace some vehicles ourselves, and those were the ones where we could just go out and buy what we needed. It was so much easier.
What? Excuse me. I know you use some of the old vans for parts. What happens to the rest?
Well, under the new guidelines, we start applying for dispositions in which MoDOT now will send us. It used to be we would sell the vehicle at the auction, wherever. We would have to give MoDOT the money. We would get to keep the 20% plus the auction fee. It's now to the point where if the vehicle meets its disposition, now I can file. MoDOT sends us the title, they send us the lien release. We do with it what we want. The money's all ours. We owe MoDOT nothing.
Basically, MoDOT says our vehicles are so old, they don't want anything to do with them. They don't even want the money.
On the flip side, we have like one right now that we are basically scavenging parts off. We're cannibalizing as much as we can at the moment. But we also have had several people calling wanting to buy buses. So when we get to that point where we actually have buses that we can pull out, then we can, I mean, some of them might bring $2,500, some of them might bring $4,000, $5,000.
But we could earn a little bit of that back.
Yeah, we get a little bit of money back.
Joe was hoping you'd ask that question.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion to amend the budget to allow for approximately $500,000 for buses?
I move that we amend the budget, the purchase of buses not to exceed $500,000.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Recommend a check.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for wheeling and dealing and making sure that we're up to par, I'd say.
And that's Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
We'll get buyer's order signed tomorrow and get them locked up.
Thanks. Not ready, are you?
All right. So board meeting dates.
That's the only other thing I have on the agenda, and that is, you know, every once in a while there's a glitch when there's a transition, and Jake and Sylvia weren't here, and Robin and I were sending out dates, not realizing that they conflict with dates that were already sent out that you guys had on your calendars. So I am very sorry about that. I apologize. So the dates that you guys have on your calendars were a budget meeting on November 8th, and what we sent out on the funding timelines was November 15th, and then a budget meeting again on December 5th, and what we had sent out on our budget timelines was the Tuesday, December 6th. So my question is, which dates do you guys want to go with?
Just tell us which ones. Yeah.
If it's not a scheduling conflict for you guys, all the providers are already expecting that second set of dates that Robin and I set out. But
so tell me again, what is the second?
Which would be,
I will be sending out I will change the Zoom invite dates for those two so that you have the Zoom specific date reminder.
November 15th and December 6th. And if you guys are available those dates and it's not a problem, that's what everybody else already has written down. So,
and you'll have the time.
Yeah, that works for.
I made the mess. I'm not cleaning it up.
Everybody okay with that? I don't think we need a motion.
So then the December 6th date, that's the date we have to approve the budget by, correct?
Well, technically December 31st, but
Nobody wants to be
with
here.
Christmas, December 6th is probably the latest we can get you here.
Works for me. I've got it down.
and then you would not have, I'm guessing, typical board meetings the fourth week of November or the fourth week of December.
No, we want to spend Thanksgiving here.
He's zooming in from the mountains of Colorado.
I'm going with him.
Sounds like a plan.
So you get the what?
Thank you, guys.
No, that's for my family.
Nobody else is very good.
Okay. I think that brings us to public comment. Do we have any public comment? I think Brian is our only public and he's already made his comment.
I'd like to say thank you so much.
You're certainly welcome and thank you for all you guys are doing over there. All right.
Tracy, thanks for the report. I like the one.
That's great. All right.
And
Can I say hi to Jake? Jake, how are you? And how's that little red BMW?
Fine. I'm doing fine.
Awesome.
He needs to take it for a spin in a minute.
Well, yeah, I'll certainly try to get in it. I'll give it a try, but yeah, it's a nice little car. It's good to see you, Jake.
Good to see you too.
All right. Anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? This meeting is adjourned.